Everywhere I look around, I see history. Brother man in front of me, yeah. And it's all but so don't know. Yeah, yeah, I wanna soak it up to the top, taking everything. Mom and dad decided that there was nothing before them. They gave the calling of all the drums all around them. Said goodbye and up and went to fight at their fortune. Got to living it up in a big old house and it's got so much to do for me. Yeah, 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 Wake up in the morning and I'm feeling hungry. The situation calls for food. And what kind of way to start your morning with some cakey and octopus sauce and some fresh fish too. Take a stroll along the beach in the beautiful weather. Perfect place for you if you need to get it together. Bring a friend and you can be sure of a wonderful moment. Living it up,
Why do you panic? Why do you do it? Do you do it because you feel stupid? You see me in pain, broken, bruised, lost in the cause. Take the medicine, they say. It'll make you feel better, they say. Makes me
Oh, for cafe, sorry. Yep.
believe that there was nothing before them. They could hear the calling of all the drums all around them. Signifying up and went to fight right there for you. Now they're living it up in a big old house and it's got so much to do. Yeah, 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 yeah. Wake up in the morning and I'm feeling hungry. The situation falls for through. And what time to break the start your morning with some cakey and hot pepper sauce and some fresh fish too. Take a stroll along the beach in a beautiful weather. Perfect place for you if you need to get it together. Bring a friend and you can be sure of a wonderful day. Living it up here, this is
Why do you pay? Why do you do it? Do you do it because you feel stupid? You see me in pain, broken, bruised, lost in the cause. Take the medicine, they said. It'll make you feel better, they said. Makes me crazy, makes me psycho, makes me wanna leave life low. Help, help, help. I'm here. I'm hurt. I feel better once I can think. What happened? You do it because the world stops to. You know, when you left the place was left with you. I just wanna be alone. I just wanna run away. I hope that you notice I was at somebody, just anybody who tell me. Peace. And at the end of the tunnel here, you'll see the light. And maybe, just maybe, you'll remember this everything. You have a purpose. Your life was meant to be. Please, just listen to me. Learn more about warning signs at wakinghere.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris McNona, Executive Director at Economic Rights Cleveland. Today is this wonderful event, Open Mic. Open Mic is a virtual event celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month, specifically focusing on giving hope through creative expression. This event features live performances from a diverse array of Cleveland-based poets and musicians, offering inspiring words and songs in the spirit of the resilience that each of us need in this challenging time. Featured performers include poets Eric Odom of 12 Literary Arts, Damian McClendon of Lake Erie Inc., who will also lead our audience in a writing exercise, and musicians Jewel Big Green and Corey Michaels. Open Mic will also feature insightful presentations from mental health professionals, sharing information conducive to coping with mental illness in the midst of a pandemic. Featured speakers are Dr. Tiffany Monfort Dent, Gerald McGee, and Seneca Black of University Hospital's Music Therapy Department. Our community partners for Open Mic are Lake Erie Inc., 12 Literary Arts, Roots of America Music, LGBT Community Center of Cleveland, Beachland Ballroom, and the Bop Shop. Our primary funding partner is Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. We are so grateful for their support. Today, we are uniting across the country to bring awareness about the stigma of mental health. Together, we raise awareness and conduct fundraising events for mental health. Know that mental health for all is our priority, now more than ever, as 1 in 3 adults experience depression and anxiety because of COVID-19. NAMI Greater Cleveland is truly focused on our mission of empowering persons affected by mental illness, families, and friends to achieve a better quality of life by providing mutual support, practical information, referral, advocacy, and educational resources. In 2020, NAMI Greater Cleveland touched the lives of many affected by mental illness. In the last 14 months, our team's priority was to continue providing free NAMI signature support and education programs and maintaining our helpline. We quickly transitioned our face-to-face programming to virtual platforms. Within days, our helpline coordinator began fielding calls from home. And within weeks, we began hosting support groups, family-to-family and peer-to-peer courses, and offered psychoeducation programs virtually. Our priority and commitment for mental health for all is rooted in our core values, making all resources accessible and showing our own resilience with new ideas to serve your needs and the needs of our communities. We launched #StigmaFreeCLE, a collaborative community awareness campaign to end the stigma of mental health and substance use and to encourage our community to access services and treatment. Partnering with over 30 organizations, we developed a toolkit for all Cuyahoga County mental health and substance use providers to incorporate into their marketing. Same messaging, same pictures. Please access Stigma Free CLE now to view the toolkit. More than ever, we need your engagement and collaboration on this crusade to break the stigma of mental health. Today's events provide each of you with an opportunity to build lasting friendships so that everyone knows they are not alone. On behalf of Greater Cleveland, thank you for joining us and for your continued support.
This is NAMI Greater Cleveland's open mic. What you just witnessed was a special performance from Carolina Inspires and the Ambassadors, as well as welcoming remarks from our Executive Director, Chris Vignonia. We thank you once again for joining us today for Open Mic. My name is Archie Green. I'm the Support and Education Coordinator for NAMI Greater Cleveland. I'm also a mental health advocate. And today what we want to do is we want to offer hope through creative expression. We've got some great poets, some great instrumentalists, as well as some great clinicians. And since we were a little delayed in getting started, what I'm going to do now is introduce our first poet. He is representing 12 Literary Arts, one of our partners for this event. And I want to just read their mission before I bring him up on stage. 12 Literary Arts currently operates 5 core programs that inspire, promote, and support youth and adult writers as they develop their literary crafts and form relationships within and across age groups. TLA emphasizes the importance of intergenerational interaction and learning. We bring performance, poetry to public spaces while supporting poets and writers of all ages with youth programming, adult professional development, and brave spaces to dream, write, and teach into a reality, a world of social justice and equity. Now I'm going to introduce poet, our first poet today, representing 12, Eric Odom. Eric Odom is a Libra, poet, brother, lover, and friend. He's in the process of bringing his second collection of poems and essays to completion titled The Stars We Call Home, due out later this year. Ladies and gentlemen from home, make some noise, snap your fingers for Mr. Eric Odom.
Oh yeah, there it is. I know there's only like 10 of us in here, but hey y'all. There we go, talk about it. All right. I think I have these memorized, so I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I got it. Yeah. Please, make my wake like them basement parties we attended as kids. Draped in the finest designer we could afford, big hoops, fitted caps, jerseys blowing back like capes, superheroes born out of reggaeton. Our first experience with touch, lockstep with our partner, grab their hand as they bend at the hip, a graceful dip into position. Our waves roam through bodies, hearts hammer, reveling in the ecstasy of connection. Let me go, like the hands of those out past curfew. I gotta get back. Mom's is calling, I gotta get back. God is calling. When I die, let it be to my people's music. I wonder what heaven my soul goes to when boosted by bomba beats. My chata right up past the creator like, Wepa, I thought this was a party. Make her holy face, crack a smile. Mouth opens to show you how many galaxies pour from her mothering tongue. Marati turns salsera and grabs my hand, teaches me to step in sync with the hum of dark matter. No morning hip hop, no night. Just handfuls of joy and time to finally rest. And for those still waiting for their moment, speak my memory in celebration, dance, like you're giving the ancestors permission to move through your body at least until the fireflies. Oh, dance. All right, and I got one more. I don't know the timing. That right there, you're in the middle of the world, man. One, moonlight. Have you ever wondered why you can float in the ocean? The salt in the water makes it more dense than the average person, so we float, spread eagle, across the ocean's smooth scalp, staring up at a blue-tinted mirror, wondering what's past it. Try to orbit Earth, become moon, transform to a heavenly body, emulate their weightlessness, massive Jupiter pirouettes around the galactic dance floor, Pelican Titans. Become like the stars. You know, when we cry, it's salt water too. I guess that's why they well up so easily. Joy and sorrow, spread eagle across the tears, smooth scalp, staring up at a man-shaped moon, wondering why they had to leave his eyes. Turn to meteors of water, they will crash against hands, chests, shoulders, good friends. I've never been too far from the edge of something. Never been a fan of skydiving or free falling. Blind faith has never been a part of my doctrine. Prayers just spells that forgot their magic, but if I could float, middle of the world, learn what it's like to let my burden sink to the depths. Earth's water made wholly fine, baptized by the stars, born a child of the universe. I could never feel more free. Okay.
Once again, people at home, people in the building, make some noise for Eric Odom. Thank you again, brother, for kicking us off. Thank you. In the spirit of keeping things moving, I'm going to introduce our first speaker of the day. She has got a riveting and really relevant and necessary presentation. Her name is Dr. Tiffany Monfort-Dent. Dr. Tiffany Monfort-Dent is a licensed psychologist, trainer, and author. Her primary areas of interest are sexual violence, prevention, and intervention on the continuum, the role of intersectionality, the lives of Black and brown girls / women, racial trauma and radical healing, social justice work within the mental health profession, and culturally informed work with those within the juvenile justice and child welfare systems. She has been featured on local and national news programs addressing the importance of emotional wellness in Black communities, mental health in times of national crisis, and the school to prison pipeline's impact on Black girls. Dr. Dent is the owner of Monfort-Dent Consulting and Psychological Services, LLC, through which she provides ongoing mental health consultation and assessments. In 2020, she co-founded Centering Sisters, LLC, an organization dedicated to projects that center the needs of Black women, girls, and films. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Tiffany Monford.
Now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the league of justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald eagle. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed. In the dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win a war individually. It take the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord. My eyes have seen the glory.
Hello, everyone. It is always an honor to be in this space, especially for NAMI Greater Cleveland, who continues to do such great work. Thank you, Archie, for inviting me to join you this morning, early afternoon. So today we're going to talk about why we are in this moment. Because specifically for Black people, we have no choice. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. I love that quote because it focuses on the idea that even in times such as this, in this year that we have experienced as a people, as a community, we have to figure out how do we continue to fight, how do we continue to love and support each other with the understanding that by focusing on these areas, by focusing on our mental health and understanding that we deserve to be emotionally well, we deserve that support, that if we do that, there's nothing that we have to lose to those things that are fine. And this is not a moment, what is happening in this world right now. We have been dealing in the 15th, 16th month of a pandemic mixed with increased understanding for some of the racial trauma, the racial stress, systemic racism and its impact on the communities of color. And one of the things that we understand is this is not just a moment in time. This has been something that has been experienced specifically by communities of color since our existence. And how do those things greatly impact our mental health? So we have these two crises. The racism, again, we understand that when it comes to situations such as the death of George Floyd, Ma'Khia Bryant, what is just now coming out of Louisiana that happened 2 years ago, that the impact of racism is something that we have experienced, that the world in this year of the pandemic specifically is just beginning to recognize, and that within that, the way that it's being recognized is that we are being forced to bear witness to our own death, to our own trauma, and film it in order for the world to actually believe that it's happening. And in the midst of that, we have been in this COVID-19 pandemic in which we are having to be isolated from each other. That connection that often has helped us get through things has been taken away. For some of us, the avoidance that we have been able to do by keeping busy so we don't have to address the fact that we have already been anxious, we have already been depressed, that we have already been experiencing trauma that we have been able to avoid dealing with because we can just kind of be out there and busy and around everyone else. We are now being put into a moment where we have to address what is happening, that we do not have those normal avoidance strategies. And also within this pandemic, the anxiety of getting sick, the anxiety of what it means for our work, for our school, the stress of how we're going to manage it all together has just been compounded. And then when we add in that piece of just the understanding of disproportionate healthcare, disproportionate access, disproportionate issues around technology that allows our children to learn, we put that together and we are trying to figure out, we are struggling and trying to identify how do we manage not just one crisis, but two crises at the same time. And one of the things that we talk about, especially when we're looking at issues of systemic racism and this belief at this point in time that it's new, when most people of color are able to say, no, this has been our lived experience, is that the impact of racism has continued on. This is not new. One of the things that I love to talk about is that my father was born in segregation. My grandfather was raised in part by his grandmother, who actually was a slave. This years of history in American society and what systemic racism has looked like for us has not gone away. And then even as we try to navigate this world, we as a community don't even know what that looks like. We're constantly being bombarded with this message of that we can just do what the world wants us to do, that we will be okay. And yet we know that being who we are is exhausting. I love this quote where it talks about there are things that you tell us you want us to do. Sing, dance, play football, run fast, be your target practice, and at the same time, we have heard about the just play basketball, just shut up and dribble. We've heard about the you are just here to entertain us. We don't need to know anything about you that's going to challenge our beliefs or make us uncomfortable. And in that, when normally the response that we're told is voice, bring it out, talk about what is bothering you, we are often faced with a society that doesn't want to hear it, that doesn't want to acknowledge it. And where does that leave us? Where does that leave our emotional well-being? And we talk about the whole idea of racism, again, police brutality, having to prove we deserve to live, which is a very stressful, emotionally draining situation. It's not about this automatic belief that in your humanity, that you deserve to be here, and any attempt at taking that from you should be judged, should be prosecuted, should be make other people just say that it's wrong. Instead, on a daily basis, we have to prove to others that we deserve to actually be here. And then even in the midst of this, one of the things that often happens in our community in order to try to have some of that balance, to have some of that hope, is that we hold on to the belief that things will be better, even in the midst of our concern that it might not. That we sit here and we hold our breath and we say, if it doesn't turn out right, we expect it, but yet we hope that it will. There's this concept of adverse childhood experiences that are, when they talk about adverse childhood experiences, they end up impacting your physical health, your emotional health as you get older. And we talk about some of them as being exposed to domestic violence, issues of poverty, family members having been incarcerated. So these are some of the things that we're talking about to say when you experience these things as children. As you get older, the lasting effects of it as it relates to substance use, mental health issues, physical health issues show up. But when it comes to being a person of color, specifically a Black or brown person in this world, we talk about our additional bases, our additional adverse childhood experience. It's the idea of over-policing, that not for the purpose of being of assistance to you, but this belief of surveillance, this belief of people coming into your community, not necessarily knowing if they're there to keep you safe or if they're there for some purpose other than that. Mass incarceration, the disproportionate incarceration of people in our community, not just based upon the criminal activity, but based upon a system that oftentimes is okay with providing partial punishment to people who look like us. We face negative stereotypes. When we are expressing our righteous anger, when we are expressing our frustration, when we are just speaking in any voice, being told that we are aggressive, that we are dangerous, having to always manage in situations where we are constantly combating the negative beliefs about us. And sometimes, just like anything else, when you hear something when you exist in a space so long, you begin to believe those messages about yourself. You begin to internalize the belief that maybe I'm not as good. Maybe I'm deserving of these negative things that are happening to me. And then we have the idea of historical trauma. that we have understood now that there's research that talks about the idea of trauma is housed in your DNA. Even if you have not been the one to experience it and it was your grandparents, they're passing this down. And so we have Jim Crow, slavery, redlining, and the most recent manifestation, the idea of making America great again, which has been used as a dog whistle for people of color to justify their ongoing mistreatment. And how in these moments, when we're dealing with these things, are they impacting our emotional well-being? Are we even willing to acknowledge that they happen? And when we don't, or even if we do, others around us insist that they don't. They insist that our lived experience and our reality is not true. And in this pandemic, we also have been able to begin to see that some of these disparities, some of these ways of how communities of color do not have access to healthy food, transportation, do not have the idea of being promoted in jobs, being in jobs that allow them to have protections, even though they're considered essential workers, that these disparities have resulted in a greater impact on people of color. We have been more likely to die and be hospitalized with COVID, in part because of these disparities that existed even beforehand. The concerns about being vaccinated, which come from a historical perspective that as a society, we have to be willing to have some understanding and be willing to address it versus, again, minimizing it, because in doing so, it minimizes the experiences of communities of color, specifically with the father of modern gynecology, who chose to practice on Black women without the use of anesthesia. We also look at the issue of the Tuskegee experiment and the not treating when it said that we were going to treat sexually transmitted diseases in men in our community, and understanding and being able to address that anxiety associated with vaccinations, and then balancing our work and our children, because not everyone has the ability to work from home, not everyone has the resources to be able to do so, and then being essential workers without the essential protections, in the idea that our community is more likely to work in environments where they are not the skilled workers that everybody is clapping for and providing protective equipment for, but instead are in other areas that people deem essential but do not value them as much. And when we're dealing with these things, we're not escaping. Again, I talked earlier about one of the things at times in our community, when we talk about pushing through, we find a way to just focus our energy somewhere else, keep ourselves busy, do all of these things, push through, and not focus on the fact that when we're dealing with racism, when we're dealing with the pandemic, when we're dealing with all of these things, that they naturally should make us feel anxious, naturally should make us feel sad, naturally should make us feel angry. And we kind of escape that. In this year, it's been so much more difficult to do that. We deal with it on social media. When we're out here and we're logging in, we're being bombarded with images of Black death. We're being bombarded with messages of people who have died because of this pandemic. And we can't escape it. In our schools, we're noticing this now, even before our children started going back into the school system, just the absence of technology available to our children, whether it was Wi-Fi not being available in our communities, or we were dealing with the idea of the technology just is not there. And then overall in our community, as we balance, how do we make it known that we are struggling, but at the same time, how do we do that in the middle of the pandemic? And then our emotions in this moment. One of the things I like to say as a psychologist, that what you feel is real. What you feel is right, because your emotions are your own. They are impacted by your experiences. They are impacted by how you perceive what is happening in that moment, and that is okay. And so some of those emotions that we're feeling right now, again, is this righteous anger. And I like to say righteous anger because a lot of times we frame anger as an emotion that you should not have. But there are times when there are things that are happening to you or that you are witnessing that absolutely make anger the emotion that you should feel. And that anger is righteous, it is justified. We also may be feeling helpless. Because when we're sitting here and we're realizing that we cannot control the actions of others, when we are realizing that we are trying to fight two crises at the same time, when we are realizing that outcomes are not always the ones that we want, we may sit back and feel helpless, like there's absolutely nothing I can do to fix it. And that may lead to feelings of just being tired and exhausted, because pushing through, trying to make it through, when everything is swirling around you that you cannot control, or that you're worried about your physical health as well as your emotional health, can be tiring. We also may be in this time disappointed. I know one of the best things that we have is each other. We have connections with people, and in those connections, we've been able to count on the people in our lives to be there for us. And in this moment of increased racial strife, in this moment of the pandemic, we at times are finding that some of the belief systems about by those who we confided in, those with whom we were vulnerable, go against our very identity, and that disappointment is there. We are worried and anxious as the world begins to open back up. Many of us are wondering what that's going to look like for us, for our community, for our children. We don't know what to do with it because, again, there's a sense of being out of control. And when we experience these things, we may experience them in combination. We may be righteously angry at the same time that we are exhausted. We may be disappointed at the same time that we are feeling anxious. And all of those things are okay to feel. The issue is, what do we do? Do we acknowledge these feelings? Do we seek the support, whether it's professional and or our friends or spiritual, to work our way through this, to be emotionally healthy? And yet, there again is no out. Again, there's this difficulty in Black girl magic. I know many of us have heard that term before, this idea that no matter what happens, specifically for Black women and girls, you just are resilient, you handle your business. And there's this expectation that the world does not owe you anything as long because you're able to accomplish everything. And that pressure of supposedly being magical versus being a human who has feelings, who has doubts, who worries, is unacceptable. And then for our males, there is this idea of those emotions, that tired, that depressed, that disappointed, that struggle then is to man up. When you're finally being able to acknowledge that my emotional health is not where it needs to be, my mental health is not where it needs to be, the world then tells you, shut it down. Because men and boys are not allowed to feel. They're not allowed to have certain feelings that would justify the need to get support. And then there is this lack of grace and resiliency. Recently on Twitter, there was this comment that someone wrote about, stop calling me resilient. I don't want to be resilient, because resiliency implies that you must be able to just deal with the world as it presents itself and be okay without the world being expected to change to make sure that you are okay. And lastly, as we know, and Archie has talked about this, and I'm so grateful for his work, there is this stigma around just having conversations around mental health. To say I'm not okay is often not acceptable. To say I need some support outside of just talking to my best girlfriend is not acceptable. And we being able to have these conversations and say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. We have to begin to be able to have those conversations and take away that stigma around mental health. One of the things I love to say to people is Black people deserve and need therapy. I'm going to say that again. Black people deserve and need therapy. And we have to begin to push that mantra, because who needs it more? We have this experiences of racial trauma and systemic racism and its ongoing impact on us in our community. We have this push where we are one of the groups of people who have to justify that we are human, that we are not these animals, that we are not these aggressive beings, that we are truly human and deserve to be treated as such. There is this fear in just being us, and walking down the street and entering stores and our engagement with other people and systems. There are no safe spaces where we can fully be vulnerable and feel protected. And then we deal in a world that denies our lived experiences when we sit here, when we say, I am anxious, I am angry about how people are treating people who look like me, other people say, well, I don't know if that's true. I need proof from you that how you are experiencing the world is reality. And in therapy, that is that space where we are fully human, where we can exist, that is safe for us, where our lived experiences are valued and we are assisted in understanding how to process a world that oftentimes is not seen. And so some of the things is I like to talk about what do we need to hear and receive from others in this moment in order to move towards being okay. Hear this. Our anxiety is real and it's rooted in the experiences of being Black. That those feelings that you're having, that stress, that pressure, those difficulties sleeping at night, that feeling like you're all wound up all the time and wondering when the next ball is going to drop is real. And sometimes we try to talk ourselves out of it because we have the stigma attached to saying that we're experiencing anxiety, and people are like, oh no, that's not what that is. But it is real. Whether we are feeling it in that headache, whether it's in that lack of sleep, whether it's in that feeling something in our stomach is just not right, that anxiety is real. Our sadness, depression, hopelessness is also real. And may be influenced by living in a world that continues to disappoint us. When we are sitting and we are wondering why things are not getting better, no matter how much time and energy we put into them, because we're facing a world that is oftentimes trying to maintain the status quo, and that status quo means moving the finish line every time we get close to it. And so that feeling of sadness, that feeling depressed, that feeling as if nothing is going to work out is real and may be influenced by those things. Again, our anger is righteous because the disparities and oppression we face and experience are due to things that are out of our control. We cannot change who we are, what we look like, and yet at the same time, we experience disparities, racial, economic, disparities within our legal and child welfare systems based upon who we are, and those sometimes are out of our control. Also, this is a big one again. Hear this. You are owed to be emotionally healthy. You are owed that, to be happy, to be able to find ways to cope when life gets difficult for you, to have that anxiety acknowledged and come up with strategies to manage that stress and also alleviate that stress is emotional health. And you are owed that. And one of the options where this happens is therapy. Therapy is an option. Therapy is something that we should seek, that we should be open to. And then I need you to receive this. You need to receive safe spaces that you can be vulnerable, whether that is in a support group. I know NAMI has some great support groups, whether that is in a therapy space, whether that is in some other space that has been created in which you can fully process and address your emotional health. And you also need to receive the recognition of your intersections, that those things come together, your race, your gender identity, your ability, your sexual orientation, all of those things come together and form who you are and what your lived experience looks like. And that may look very different from other people, but that does not negate the fact that is your experience based upon those intersections. And you need to receive support in managing your struggle to exist, not just in a time such as this, but in the times hopefully after this. And that support can be therapy. That support can be the community acknowledging mental health and the need for us to have a bigger focus on what that looks like in our community. But part of it too is that I always say we build resilience, this idea of being able to manage in a world that oftentimes does not value you, to be able to manage in a world in which there are traumatic things that are happening. But at the same time, we also must push for resistance. That resistance is not just figuring out how to deal, but also recognizing that change needs to happen. for you, because you shouldn't have to constantly deal in a world that does not value you as a person. You should not have to constantly deal in a world where there are these disparities, where you are experiencing oppression, where you are being disappointed. So part of it is also resistance, which is saying, let's make change happen. And what does change look like? I always say, as mental health professionals who are focusing on the needs specifically of marginalized communities, it is not just enough to help our clients develop coping skills. We must also work to change the systems that result in them needing to cope with those things in the first place. So what does ongoing resistance and change actually look like? We also need to look at the idea of just acknowledging that in this moment that we are experiencing grief. And that part of that first step in the resistance is having that acknowledgement. We are dealing in this past year with not being with loved ones in transition, not being able to comfort each other through touch due to physical distancing. Even those moments of joy, which kind of have always helped us get past these moments, or at least minimize their impact, celebrations of life are not happening because we're not able to be in space. And we are mourning more than the loss of loved ones. We are mourning the loss of what a familiar process of coping with death looks like. And then we also need to seek supports when and how we can. Self-care, when we are moving on to the idea of resistance, is an act of resistance. Audre Lorde talks about the idea of self-preservation in this moment. And so we need to be aware of what that looks like. So to take care of yourself, take a break. Don't go on social media and news media overload. No one can be bombarded with all of this trauma and still be okay. Don't feel obligated to teach others about your lived experience. Sometimes we sit here and when we're going through things and we try to reach out to those around us and they tell us they don't believe it and you need to explain why you feel this way. Google can be there. Tell them to use it. You do not have to spend all of your emotional labor in order for other people to fully understand. Seek mental health services. Again, I'm saying it over and over again because I am hoping that the more I say it, the closer we will be coming to believing it and thinking it. You owe it to yourself not to exist in a state of anxiety, depression, being overwhelmed. There are mental health professionals who have years of training to assist you in managing this. Find spaces that allow you moments of vulnerability without you having to explain why you need them. Understand that resistance is multifaceted. Choose what you're going to address, what you're concerned about, and be okay with it. Allow yourself to rest. Sometimes this is the most difficult to do when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling depressed, because we have those feelings of restlessness. Your mind and body need it in order to be able to function. I also say revel in joy. Again, sometimes just holding on to those moments help us get to the next moment in which we can continue to be able to develop those coping strategies. Dance, sing, commune with others. In this world, we're communing at Zoom, and that's okay, but don't deny yourself these wonderful, necessary experiences. And as a community, we need to look at what inspires us. We also need to make sure that we say the names of those in our community who have brought us into this moment. And so here are some of the names that I always want to make sure that as we are pushing through this resistance, that we remember these names, and that we know that we need to continue to fight. And always remember that you deserve joy. You deserve it. Addressing your mental health allows you to get to that point of joy. Being able to acknowledge that this is stressful, that there's nobody who should be able to say in this time, especially, that they have not had moments of stress, anxiety, sadness, worry, all of those things, but also recognizing that I need to find those moments, those spaces, those people that bring me joy. And that if I'm not experiencing it, if I'm not being able to find those moments, that where is the help that I may be able to receive that can give me? We also need to know that at the end of the day, if we look for the services that we need, if we support those people in our lives, if we acknowledge the importance of mental health, that we are going to be all right.
Just like God. I hooked up, homie, you hooked up, but if God got us, then we gon' be all right.
Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. And I will open it up and turn it back over to Jacoby or Archie, now that I see him. Who is on mute?
Dr. Dent just, she really spoke for us, real way. As hard as this year has been, for all of us, speaking as a Black male, America, everything's come to a head. Part of the reason why we're doing this event today, open mic, NAMI Greater Cleveland. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties. Thank you if you have just joined us for a treat at this point. Welcome to the stage. Next performer, Corey Michaels is a pop artist from Cleveland, Ohio. His album, Give All Yourself, has been a vehicle of breaking down barriers, building bridges, creating safe spaces, allowing him to partner with various organizations, as well as play quite a few stages, all on his own terms. He's also happy to announce that he'll be performing at this year's Cleveland Pride, airing on the local WKYC Channel 3 on June 4th at 7:30. And we'll also be heading to the world famous Grog Shop on July 24th. Ladies and gentlemen, from home, make some noise, my good friend, Corey Michaels. Thank you so much for having me. That's a privilege.
See the look in this danger. Let's explore past a stranger. Just hold on to the night as it gives us new life. On the verge of lovers, all the secrets under covers. I'll be yours, you'll be mine. You and I, wrong or right, not wasting time. We are one under the sun. So please ignite the burning skies and our fun under the sun. Under the sun. Please just be the one. Steal a kiss right from your lips. Sway back and forth with our hips, and it feels so right. How it feels tonight. Ooh, it's something in the air, and it's floating everywhere. I'm addicted to you, and the way you move. You and I, wrong or right, not wasting time. We are one under the sun. So please ignite the burning skies in our fun under the sun, under the sun. Just be the one. It's just you and me together. Hold tight, get ready for the ride. 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 I will love you, will adore you, do it for you, 'cause I want you. I just want you. You and I, wrong or right. Now it's in time. We are one under the sun. So please ignite the burning skies and have fun under the sun. Under the sun, be the one. Thank you so much. This next song is called Bridges. I recently did a event partnering with local organizations like this to create a space for people who are and being in that community and understanding how important it is extremely important and to be here to have partners who now make for this. And I thank you to RG, who's great at hosting and just giving us a good energy. Thank you to each and every one of you who are watching. Doesn't feel safe and no one else feels the same. No way to get over you and my way. I tried so hard to get over you. But love won't let go. No. So I built the jet. I built the jet. Summer nights out. Your body's a next to me. And I can barely stand the thought of telling myself I'm lost. I've tried so hard to get over you. But I won't let go. So I built the jet. I built the jet. I can't feel the this way. I could lose my faith. Get me out of this place. Oh, I can't feel this way. I will surely I tried so hard to get over you, but now I'm I feel today. 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 I feel today.
I don't know about y'all, but I got chills. Like seriously. Like everybody, I know you guys can't see everybody that's here. I feel like everybody got chills from that performance. Amazing point, Michaels. Man, just incredible. At this time, we're gonna take a brief 5-minute intermission, and we're gonna have DJ Cleveland Brown bless us with a really dope set, and we'll be right back.
Get up! It's party time! Clap your hands! Come on! Clap your hands! Come on! Get up! Get up!
It's not difficult for me to say I love you. It wouldn't be difficult if you would say the same. And believe it when I tell you that I know you very well. I know you like to know my name. Alright. Hi everybody, how was that quick intermission? Great. Okay, there's a Hi, I'm Brittany Cleveland and I'm an intern for NAMI. So I'm very excited and very happy about what I've seen so far. The performance was great, and I just look forward to so our next performers are from the Lake Erie Inc., and their mission is to give a writing space to youth, provide creative expression, opportunity, and academic support for the youth in the greater Cleveland community. And their vision is to envision a community where youth discovers their voice, share ideas, and inspire each other as others value participants. And their values are to believe in the transformative power of creative expression, and the voices of the youth are the center of what they do. And they are committed to openness, collaboration, and accountability to the youth and communities that we serve. And so for the first poet that we have is Damian McClendon, and he's a poet from Cleveland, Ohio. And he centers his work as the experience of a Black man and father coming up from a low-income background, and he has earned a BA in Pan-African Studies from Penn State University in 2016. And since then, he's been a poet laureate of Cleveland Heights, received the Cleveland Arts Prize for the Verge Fellowship, Akron Soul Train Fellowship, and has traveled around the country performing for many audiences. So please, a warm welcome to David.
Mr. Doug, that's enough for having you. Okay, like you said, my name is Damien. I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio. Now, so we gonna look out for my work. I also have books for sale. But you got all of my Instagram. Instagram is COVP underscore WE_EPIC. I got 2 poems for y'all, but I got memorized, but don't got memorized. So, Black boy from the hood, motivated. World is already coming to us. Body whole, ever whole in our bodies. Look forward to my first pair of rabbis. God still different race, food, or grandsons on different nights. So all my niggas that play in the world already. I'll say I'm a local type really high. We get a son for the prison high this way. That's the at this state, 4 white officers put up 2 black cars and told me I can't skate. I have skated before I had kids. Now travel past so much family at this point. Ain't no skate park in the hood. This is where we open skating the street now. This is simple to me. It's like something I gotta fight for. Like every time I practice smile, I break the law. But I mean, we are rebellious like that. As skaters, great architecture, build new purpose and playground, grind the face, in gentrified structure, scrape our well-oiled skates against its smoothest tooth that are to be swallowed through them. Might as well shred the windpipe. Might as well have some fun. This heartless stomach, mama didn't teach me to skate for nothing. My family was smoke. We do not inhale enough airborne, but my mama was handed down chores. Our family generations. We too often reminded of trauma we inherit like a curse. We never let ourselves forget joy is even more prolific. It is 1950. My great grandmother is giving a girl who will become my grandmother her first pair of skates. It's 1950. My great grandmother is giving a boy she does not know will become her great grandson, one of his greatest smiles. It's 2016. My mother is giving my son the gift of grace. Niall was skating when he had running all the way down pat. I be a proud father of maids. Can't even lace mine up without him running to get his. And he wants to be just like his dad. That's something I can't relate to. I've always wanted to give my children what I didn't have. We take the dead beat and turn them into music now that I can skate to. In our living room, don't have much fun, but we still get our life there. The purpose, all this intergenerational joy on wheels. Niall trips and falls, cracks up the earth. His laugh calls out the ancestors, and we all rejoice how alive we are still. Anywhere in the world now. Get Black trauma
by barely lifting a finger. Take this quiz to find out what color of Black death you feel like today. As long as it has the power, the state gonna keep killing niggas. And it don't matter where we are in the world at the time, because they're gonna make us watch. They're gonna zoom in, turn the volume up so we can hear the last breath leave the body. The moment the Black mother's tears fall on air, you'll get a notification. We watch as the state covers our cold blood and fresh paint, murders us, and writes Black Lives Matter on our corpses, and we gotta look up from our phones and see our Black mother's face, have to face our Black children's little lives, knowing we have nothing that will keep them safe. This hope and prayer, which cannot stop a bullet, and we attempt to overcome death on a daily basis. Struggle to hold up the sun in our perpetual mourning while they shout, not all cops are bad in the background, and white people try to all lives matter us into extinction. The revolution won't be televised because Black death is so much more entertaining to them. White racists sees a Black life killed on camera, and it's like training to them, but so draining for us to know that shit don't change for us. It's like a nigga is born and then it's danger for us. Our anger is just the result of seeing demons make angels of us. The pain and adjustment, we ain't got the healing for it. There's a whole lot of clips raised in the heaven that's running low on halos. They say all vengeance belongs to God, but God, I think we need some back. But when we fight back, history says if you want to move forward, you got to shoot back. Says liberty or death. And we've been dying, so where our freedom at in Cleveland? Damn near 50% of Black people live in poverty in Cleveland. Over $250 million is spent on a mostly white police department. So every time our job cut our check, a piece of our money goes to an officer, goes to all over policing our neighborhoods, goes to paying their mortgage while we struggle to pay our rent. We pay their salaries and they use it to kill us for no reason. And wonder why we protest. And wonder why we be so ready to fuck shit up. American bird, we live and vote. On which wing we think will keep our lives afloat, like both wings and attached to the same body. Call it Jim Crow, but it's really just a pig perched on a pyramid of poor people pretending to fly. Call it defunding the police, and call it pulling pork apart. Call it cutting up the belly of the beast and feeding the bellies of the people. We coming, and every freedom fighter the earth holds for us. Every Black life forced into ancestry. Every nigga the state thought was dead is coming back to life through us. Having met God already, we no longer fear death, we hear. Our trauma American made, so this karma got America's name on it. We coming from projects and gentrified apartment complex. We coming from gangsters in grad school, from pulpit and trap house, from country and concrete jungle, from niggas with jobs to niggas that hustle, from niggas in mansions to niggas with nothing. We coming from Tubman and Tabernacle, from Mosque and Malcolm X, from God and Allah, Bodun and Ifa. We coming. Black Jesus with a Molotov cocktail. We coming, and we gonna show the world. We gonna zoom in, turn the volume up so they can hear this freedom being got, this justice being served, this Black mouth calling out in the night. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Thank y'all so much for y'all ears. Next, I got a prompt for y'all. All my people here, y'all got some paper, want to jot this down. All my people at home, you can pull up a Word document or just get out a piece of paper. There's several parts to this prompt. Feel free to write down as much as you want. And the prompt is by a poet named Banu Kapil Writer. And it's coming to you by way of Michelle Smith, who's also a poet with Lake Erie Inc., but she couldn't be here today. So she gave me this awesome prompt. This is called the vertical interrogation of strangers. Write each question down as follows. Who are you? And who do you love? Again, who are you and who do you love? Next, where did you come from and how did you arrive?
Where did you come from? And how did you arrive? Next question. How will you begin? How will you begin? Next question is, how will you live now? How will you live now? The next question is, what is the shape of your body? What is the shape of your body? The next one is, who is responsible for the suffering of your mother? Again, who is responsible for the suffering of your mother? Two more questions. What do you remember about the earth? Again, what do you remember about the earth? And finally, what is the consequence of silence? What is the consequence of silence? I welcome you all to write on that prompt. I'm sure some amazing words, lines, thoughts will come from it. And again, thank y'all so much for having me. Next up, we're gonna have our youth poets from Lake Erie Inc. Their names are Haley and Elena. They're gonna deliver some amazing poems for y'all. And yeah, check out Lake Erie Inc., located in Cleveland Heights. It's an amazing organization to get your youth involved. If you have youth in your community or in your family, send them our way. All right, thank y'all.
Hi, everyone, my name is Hallie, and I have two poems for you today. This first poem is called Being Free. It has a trigger warning for mentions of self-harm. That is something that's free. Being free. Water spills out of the glass vase onto the gray table. The blue and purple spiraling into a mess of colors similar to the shattered bits of my brain scattered on the floor. I stay hunched in a corner, tears streaming down my face as the bits of broken brain stare back at me, the whole world gray. The only color I can see is the blue and purple from the vase. Is this a sign? Am I finally going to be happy? Am I finally going to be free? I stick my hands in the blue and purple mess, its stickiness covering my hand, its coldness shocking my skin, causing goosebumps to arise, but I could feel it. Its slimy poo trailing over my hand and down my arm, running along my veins, my bruises, my cuts that remind me of who I am. A person who doesn't deserve love, a person who doesn't deserve attention. But now I'm finally feeling something, seeing color for the first time in years. The purple and blue and the slimy mess crackles as the reds and pinks from the bits of brain twinkle in the light. Maybe this is a sign that one day I'll be able to be happy, that one day I'll be able to be free. This next poem is called One with the Stars. It has a trigger warning for mentions of intrusive thoughts and suicide. Huddled in a corner, tears stream down my face as the darkness surrounds me, whispers to me, "You're annoying, you're a burden, you're useless." It swirls around me, trapping me, taking hold of me and choking, trying to take my life and make it its own. But when I manage to fight through my tears and look up at the purple and blue sky, I see the stars and imagine myself dissolving among them. My body becoming dust, my brain becoming mush, my soul becoming a star, twinkling in the night. I'll speak to the other stars and they'll tell me stories of when they lived on Earth, what happened to them, what they did, what they said. I'll learn the entire history of humanity through their stories, hoping the people below will take notice of our twinkling, of our messages to them to stop repeating history. But for now, as the darkness continues to take over my body and brain, I'll wish to be a part of the sky, twinkling with the other stars, my body becoming dust. Thank you.
Um, I have one poem today. Oh, yeah, I got one poem for the day. It's called Inner Conflict and Outer Perspective. Compliments turn insults so fast it gives you whiplash, and burns so bad it leaves you with heartburn. Always have to question whether or not am I good enough. Always comparing myself to others because I feel like the person I see in the mirror is nothing compared to the person to my left or right. Silently swallowing all emotions so everybody don't have to open the doors with self-pity and open arms to make sure that I am okay at the end of the day. Sometimes that leaves me breathless. Sometimes that make you feel worse. Sometimes that make us both uncomfortable. Sometimes it makes you feel like though you are dirt. The mirror lays shattered, unused, broken, due to the fact my mind contorted an image of a character instead of me and only me. The larger than life living leaves me hopeless and helpless to the fact that I may never gain my humanity back. But then again, that's my mind rampant. I constantly put myself down with thoughts of you are never going to make it out of here. Let me repeat that. You are never going to make it out of here alive. I meant. Depression made me realize my biggest enemy was myself when it comes to my goals, my hardships, and the people I hold close in my life. No one gave me the directions or instructions on how to handle depression. No one gave me the booklet to say, hey, you have bipolar disorder, and here's how to handle it. No one gave me the helping hand, the support that I needed to get out of myself. And yes, I know I have a therapist, I have family and friends, but at the same time, I barely understand my own struggles, let alone articulate how badly it impacts my life. There are mornings where I wake up and curse the gods that I'm still alive. There are mornings where I just don't want to get out of bed. There are mornings where I don't want to be visible. Just laying there in the dark room like a vampire, laying beside my pen and journal as the music become overwhelmingly sweet and sour. The lyrics speak out, reaching out to me, holding me, reassuring that I am okay, that I am safe, that I am done.
Hello, everybody. I'm Spencer Costello, intern here at NAMI, and I hope everyone is enjoying all the wonderful performing arts as much as I am here at home. It's been really wonderful and a pleasure to watch. And now I'm up here to introduce Seneca Block. Seneca Block is a board-certified music therapist and expressive therapy program manager with University Hospitals Connor at the Integrative Health Network. He is currently working on implementation of music therapy into standard healthcare models, including both general, medical, and psychiatric settings. With a history of clinical training within institutions including Horizons for Homeless Children, the Tufts Medical Center, and McLean Psychiatric Hospital of Harvard Medical School, Seneca received both his master's and bachelor's degree in music therapy from Berklee College of Music in Boston, along with a minor focus on psychology. Outside of clinical work, Seneca enjoys performing as the bassist in his Cleveland-based pop, groove, and soul band, Top Hat Black, and is always working to improve his musicianship in addition to his clinical practice. So join me in giving it up for the very impressive Seneca Black. Thank you again for having me. Let's start today. Sometimes you have to tear down the walls of fear. Burn every bridge like your feet are on fire. Back to yourself, that's the lanes behind. Don't be afraid to make a stand. Sometimes you have to move to leave. So life's got a funny way of working out right. And it's always dark for the light. So keep your chin up and your demons down. See the shadows lift off your worried brow. Don't be afraid to make a stand. Sometimes you have to leave. Love every moment, love every breath. Every footstep that you ever met. Walk through the valley in the shadow of death. With your heart pumping hard inside of your chest. Don't be afraid to make a stand. Sometimes you have to move. To leave. Again, I'm from University Hospitals, and I work as the program manager. Really, was here to one share a little bit about music and we set therapeutically, but also share a little bit about how music can help, especially during a time when there's just some suffering. It's a way to pull out some things that help support our well-being. So across our hospital system, we have 10 medical centers where we have music therapists who work with inpatients, primarily to treat stress, anxiety, provide a form of coping that's non-pharmacological, that really means a way that doesn't use medication or pills. And this piece of music that I shared was actually written with a group within the addiction recovery unit. Where I was working with a group of individuals who, as a group, they were struggling. They were struggling with what was happening in their life. They were struggling to find healthy coping mechanisms, healthy coping tools. The music was something that worked for them. It was something that allowed them to come together as a group and process ideas and talk about their experience in a way that was just really unique. The other really beautiful thing about music is that it's something that allows you to externalize what you're thinking, externalize how you're feeling, and then record that and share it with another human being. And that in and of itself sometimes can be, a therapeutic piece of music. Now, though we have board certified music therapists across all of our medical centers, music can still be therapeutic whether you're working with a music therapist or not. And I think all the performers we've had here, whether it be music, whether it be really wonderful poetry, whether it be just all of the presentations, even the pre-recorded DJ, all that stuff it all happened.
So no carbonated beverages, but I have water, I have an apple juice, and I have granola bars. You're welcome. If I can sneak upstairs, I will, and I'll look around if we have anything else, okay?
That feature, you might want to take a moment. Here's something. One of the songs that I think go to therapy songs. So, take them out. I wonder if people here can shout it out. We're going to dedicate a song to one person, place, or thing that gets you through a hard time. Who would that person, place, or thing be? People here, go ahead and shout it out. Mitchell. Brother. Son. Parents. Parents. Friends. So my daughter. So in this moment, all of these different people, places, and things that get us through those hard times, take a moment, invite you to set your gaze gently, close your eyes if you like, imagine those things, those people, those places. As you listen to the music, turn up the color, amplify the color. When the night is come, that is all. It's the only I will see. Oh, I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. Long stay. So darling, darling, stay. Stay. Stand by. Hit the sky. Wow. Should tumble and fall. The mouse should run into the sea. I won't cry. Oh, I won't shed a tear just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stay by me. Oh, stand by. Oh, stay. Stand by me. Family, and nature, my brother, my parents too, my dog, anything else I got. Bye. So that brings me to the point where I'm going to share with you what music therapy is. Music therapy is the piece of music that's non-physical. So in the moment, you can use music. You're probably a little relaxed during the music. Right? It's a tool in your toolbox. I'm sure a lot of us already do this in this room, but sometimes it's good to just raise that awareness. And then sometimes music is good just to identify, some things. And we do some lyric substitution, you take your favorite song, change out some lyrics, get a couple of laughs, but also just remember your support system during tough times. Music is something that can help you do that. With that said, do I have time for one more song? So with that said, music is another really amazing tool just to help share your own experiences. And I think really amazing poet right before me, they gave a prompt at the end. I think I'll share one too. Sitting down and lyric writing is something that can be such a great way to express yourself and just get those thoughts and feelings out on paper. So second this notion. Here's a song that's about just taking a moment with technology for a little bit and reconnecting. What's really important? Love. Ready. The song is called Speak Up. I saw love on the drive back home. I saw love staring at a phone. I saw love wishing for the world to finally be all hers. I heard love in the sound of a voice. I heard love trying to make a choice. I heard love wishing to make a beautiful mistake. But when all these words don't break your heart, you're searching for nothing at all. And somehow you're in more lost.
Speak love. Speak love. I felt love in the touch of a hand. I felt love. I began to understand. I felt love. Just letting go and last. Living through the glass. But if all these words don't break your heart, you're searching for nothing at all. And somehow you're even alone. Speak love. Speak love. Speak love. Speak love. Another round of applause. Seneca Block. So I personally, like, one of the things, I guess we have a couple minutes to kind of talk to a little bit here. Me, music is super crucial. I mean, I'm a musician, I'm an artist, but one of my coping mechanisms is playlisting. Yeah, that's something you talk to people about in terms of music therapy.
Oh, absolutely. So making a playlist is such a useful tool. Because so oftentimes a song can just bring you back to a moment, bring back a memory, but also it can also help influence your mood and shift that. So one thing we talk about is in terms of like mood management, will actually help people make playlists. Sometimes we'll meet them at a mood they don't want to be, and then the songs gradually shift into maybe more upbeat, maybe more happy, and then that in turn helps your mood shift like that too. But really the idea behind the playlist creation is it's great because it uses something that is already yours, and it just helps use it for something that might help you have how you're feeling about a situation.
That's something that you know, for me, I have. So I live with depression and anxiety. I know for me, when I'm having a really bad episode, I have a playlist called Crash, which is like my SOS. So like when I know, man, nothing's going right or anything, and I'll go to this playlist and it has Cudi, Logic, Brian Eno. But I think, you know, the importance of listening to something, being still, closing your eyes, but also, you know, as far as the writing prompts, you know, writing your own lyrics. That first song, you said Patience wrote that song?
Patience wrote that.
That was amazing.
Share with you about lyric writing is that you can start it and you almost don't know where to go with it, and another person adds to it. And then that kind of, that's why, you know, I'm also a strong advocate for so many things like together, rituals, we're working on it, bring it together and provide support.
Amazing. So again, music therapy, if you've never tried it, pick up your phone, go to your Spotify or your Apple or Tidal, put together a playlist for when you're trying to brighten your mood, when you're trying to feel better, or even when you're feeling bad, when you're feeling low. All of that can help you along the way. So again, round of applause for Seneca Block. Thank you guys again for tuning in with us. And at this time, I'm going to get ready to announce our next performance, who is representing one of our other program partners, Roots of American Music, which is based in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Roots of American Music provides art, education, musical performances, and playing opportunities for audiences and musicians of all ages, means, and abilities while supporting the preservation of American music and its roots. So thanks again to Roots of American Music for being a community partner for Hope and Mike. And at this time, I'm going to bring to the stage our next performer. Growing up around and inspired by his father's wedding band, Patrick DiCaprio has graced stages, bands, and as a solo act across Northeast Ohio for over 16 years. After losing his oldest brother, who taught him how to play guitar, to suicide, Patrick is finding ways to spread the importance of talking about mental health and social emotional learning. You guys are in for a treat. Make some noise for Patrick DiCaprio.
I'd like to thank Jason Patrick Myers for giving me the opportunity to do this, and Archie for letting me be involved. When I found out it was going to be this kind of cause and this kind of event, just trying to get involved and spread the message. And that it's okay to not be okay, and there are ways to cope with that, and use music as a positive force, and find that silver lining in things that go bad. I play in a band called the Satellite Era. I'm gonna play some of the songs I wrote with them and for them. Rise and fall, let the past sleep at your feet. Kept looking outside for my problem, but they always lived inside of me. Chance in time, a second too late came a second too soon, and sleep my mind plays a vision inside a tune. Life will never keep me down. Life will never keep me down. Time sings an undefeated tune. Know that a person ceased to exist as the measures march on through, and live and learn, or just live and lose. Struggle and step will never move, time will never lose. Life will never keep me down. 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 Oh well, not me. Who cares? I'm trying. Oh well, not me. Who cares? I'm trying. Oh well, not me. Oh well, not me. And life will never keep me down. 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 I think my family's watching right now. They're visiting my brother in Charlotte, North Carolina, and today's his birthday. So happy birthday, Adam. What do you say? Get out of here. Go any place that we can hear the beat of our hearts when noise dies down, and the fall of my words when you're around. Can you believe that's the way it is? I can't believe I messed up like this. Do you believe the words I'm saying? Do you believe in what I say? Do you believe the words I'm saying? Do you believe in what I say? What do you say if I told you I was wrong? Because I was, and I wish I realized it. Before you were gone, I faded away. Took you for granted, made mistake, then mistake. Do you believe that's the way it is? I can't believe I messed up like this. Do you believe the words I'm saying? Do you believe in what I say? Do you believe the words I'm saying? Do you believe in what I say? Do you believe the words I'm saying? Do you believe in what I say? Do you believe the words I'm saying? Do you believe in what I say? It's a brand new one. Not recorded yet. Just trying to make the most of my time up here. And I'm high. Why am I so low? You know, it's hard for me to show. Reading the signs the wrong way.
to live life when I'm stuck inside my mind. Oh, and I wait for you. If you want me to, anytime you leave, caught in my mind, telling myself you can't be mine. Oh, you know it's hard for me to control everything inside, moving fast and slow. Reading the signs the wrong way. Hard to live life when I'm stuck inside my mind. Oh, and I wait for you. If you want me to, anytime you leave, caught in my mind, telling myself you can't be mine, and I'll wait for you. And I'll stand in the shadows and take all this pain, keep it inside, all locked away. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Archie. Thank you, Nami, Roots of American Music. Thank you, Jason. And thank you, the rest of the performers.
Another round of applause for Patrick DiCaprio, Roots of American Music. At this time, we're gonna have another brief musical intermission with DJ Cleveland Brown before we bring out our next poet. Stay tuned.
Hey, yo. My mother said there would be days like this. My papa taught me how to make a fist. My abuelita taught me how to pray. Just to make it through the day. And never look the other way.
Yeah, loving the skin, I'm in back. For the cinnamon black, they oversimplify the answer the way you form, knowing the question can't be satisfied by claiming a spot on the map. See, I'm a Hugh Newton and grew up in a wicked chair, rifle spear, pops prepared the living room for schooling to give you where I understood what it meant to be human. And unfortunately, in my life, I'd have to fight to prove it. Rifle spear, pen and pad, literature for music, tools for the revolution. Believe me, ballads came later, knowing the Constitution was forged out of white supremacy. Check the context to it. Strength and unity, so divide and conquer how they do it. Black indigenous in every shade, kissed by the sun. Fist up for the struggle. Understand where you're one. Despite the construct, we construct better together. Praise God for the melanin, it feels better than ever.
Yeah, blacker than the bottom of the ocean. Live this every day, don't ever question my devotion. Suntan lotion won't get you close to this. My beautiful, natural, God-given pigment. A figment of imagination, now you're not. Say you don't see color, cause it's hard to watch. The mind, body, and soul of a human being being pulverized live on your TV screen. I benefit from King's dream, murdered on the balcony, and I still smile knowing racists got it out for me. The current state of things make hope hard to see. A hug and smile from my two boys changes everything. I love being black, ain't nothing changing that. I'ma be alright no matter how the odds stack. Family on my back, power to the people. We don't want revenge, we just wanna be equal. Black. It's beautiful. Yeah. Black. It's black. It's black. It's beautiful. No. It's beautiful.
And still, the alpha and the omega. You can describe me rightfully as the animal the dog whistle blows so loud for. How about that? My bite pressure is much too much for their racist bones. So they gaslight jet black me, unaware that I'm wired with the nerve to survive the evils of the colonizers' plan to put Whitey on the moon and develop colonies of submissive cooks. Man, listen, we are the proverbial overqualified underdog, trapped in the white man's fear that my progress means his loss. I mean, we've seen this movie before. When a coin is tossed, it always lands in a cup of white tears, a ripple in your placid pool of distance, if you will. And still, blackness not only strives, but reinvents how to thrive despite the heels on our backs and the knees on our necks, despite our prayers unanswered and typecast has fallen from grace from the door. The animal, trapped in the new plantation, the ever algorithmic and universally predictable white privilege. And the winters and falls between too black, too strong, and the complexion for protection laws written to gerrymander my voice back to the days of Jim Crow and sharecropping at best. Yet I stand here before you today, fortified by my ordained connection to the earth as the original man, the alpha and omega. My bite pressure, much too much for their racist bones. So they manufacture my narrative revised, full of conspiratorial theater and lies. The old narrative about who the black man is must die. The odds we battle are no small odds at all. And as you can see, we have not lost any belief in ourselves or our purpose. Because our purpose is one of process and progression.
Welcome back to Hope and Mike. Thank you again to DJ Cleveland Brown for that beautiful intermission. Hope you guys have enjoyed poets, the performers, the presentations that we've had thus far. Again, this is NAMI Greater Cleveland. My name is Archie Green, Support and Education Coordinator at NAMI Greater Cleveland. Help to produce events of this nature that are educational, as well as help to co-facilitate support groups for NAMI Greater Cleveland. At this time, we're going to bring up our next poet, who's representing another one of NAMI Greater Cleveland's community partners, the LGBT Community Center of Cleveland. Their mission: we are a creative writing space for youth, Greater Cleveland community that provides opportunities and space for youth of all ages to express themselves creatively. Our next speaker, our next poet rather, is part of the Lori Key youth group over the LGBT Center. Her name is Annabelle Bach. Annabelle Bach is a slam poet as well as a multimedia artist. Annabelle is the sole creator and curator of Concrete Kids Online, CLE-based magazine created to showcase the thriving and hidden art scene in the city. She is also a sculptor, musician, and activist. In infusing her passion for the Black Lives Matter movement and the hashtag #MeToo movement into her art. Let's get those fingers snapping for Annabelle Bach.
Hi, everybody. My name is Annabelle. Today I'm going to read it. This first poem is called Obey. Feminazi, sex as a hobby, her and her posse, women who run with boxes, walk around topless, unbound and godless, write poetry in lipstick, ugly chicks, dickless, showing some skin with a grimace, a new generation of witches, evil cunts in dark ditches. Hunter redheaded missus. See, she talks too much. She needs to be corrected. Words to distort, kill an escort, dehumanize her till she's a number, inject her with plastic till she's rubber, elect her with a phallic culture, tell her she won't amount to anything, nothing more than plaything, right stripped by the gray king. They criminalize her bodily, like it was a rent to be godly. The high priestess, ruled by Venus, unborn fetus, Jesus teaches women to be slaves, to shave and behave. Engraved in her brain, she should stay afraid. Girly tokens live to obey, nevermore. Lies corrupt pores, a wife turned whore, punish goddess of yore, kitchens bare, war, and behind a closed door, tape her mouth shut. This next poem is called Past Life. I would advise you boys to keep moving, refrain from goofing or improving. It's late past curfew, a profile constructed from rear view. You match the description, depiction, turn, infliction. The way his attention hits the corners of his pupils and the back of a baton, the way it plays out like a ritual, ode to a black swan, the removal and renewal of another soul, youthful yet brutal, symptom of the patrol. Pig, dice, skunk, and beetle, when murder turns legal, take the power from the people. More funeral chords ring out of the cathedral. Corrupt courts and lords make death look regal. Red blood on the steeple and a blind eagle flies overhead. You know, MLK once said, wait, sorry, it's funny. MLK once said, if you can't fly, then run. He really said that. He must have not been on the peering side of a gun behind a badge and a number, heartbeat like drum, neighborhood like slum, torment like numb, gravestone like sun. What had happened to him in a past life that made him wince at the sirens, that turned his anger into silence? What made him cut his hair and afraid to repair what had happened to him? This last poem is called Trash. Hear everybody talk like rubble, letting the words jumble and bubble, old rags reborn in cologne, trap crowns adorned in an awful groan, kitchen grease used for shoe shines, skin ooze for plastic pines. See, hear everybody smell like bones, tombs full of six-pack rings, only bird of mine, a pigeon wing, shrine full of candles and soda pop cans, rosary scrap shambles, love sold by the gram. Hear everybody dance like junk, thrash city, litter punks, jacket made of cling wrap, cigarette butt fill a tooth gap, set him and smile, disco ball bile, bottle cap boots. Hear everybody swing samba, swing druggy strings, orchestra dumb strike, grubby dings, a go-go bells, solo cartels, soda of slime, crumbs and coke, guns and a peep toes, keys made of teeth, snare drum, sing Sloan, trash city, writ of right, their mantra, sweetness and light. And my name is Annabelle, or Scout, whatever you want to call me. And my Instagram is @Annabelle Bach. And I also have my own magazine that I can talk about a little bit. And it's all about local art. Anybody can submit as long as you're from the Cleveland area. Actually, submissions are open right now. And you can go check it out at Concrete Kids Online on Instagram. The first issue is out, so go buy that. $30 USD.
Had some amazing poets grace the stage today. Annabelle killed it. Make sure you guys support. And another shout out to the LGBT Community Center for being one of our partners. At this time, we're going to introduce our last speaker for the event before our final performance. This is another friend of NAMI Greater Cleveland, Gerald McGee. Gerald W. McGee is a highly motivated and passionate individual who enjoys working with all ages of children, youth, and their families. He doesn't seek to change people, but to empower individuals and families to see and understand their own struggles and make constructive choices for themselves. Mr. McGee has 20 years of experience serving individuals, couples, families, and communities as a social worker and clinical therapist. Mr. McGee holds a master's degree of social work from Cleveland State University in Cleveland, Ohio, as well as a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, Criminal Justice from Pfeiffer University, Misenheimer, North Carolina. He's worked as a case manager, child protective service, and community organizer, therapist, and supervisor within the mental health community and foster care systems. He has provided intensive clinical treatment at the Cleveland Christian Home, serving boys with severe behavioral, emotional, and sexually acting out behaviors. He's effectively used individual and group counseling in a private practice setting with people of all walks of life to influence positive change. Mr. McGee has been an active participant in the Cleveland chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI. He has developed and facilitated psychoeducations on wellness, toxic relationships, depression, suicide, and trauma. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gerald McGee.
Thank you, Archie. Thank you, Nami, for having me here today. I feel like it's such an honor. When we talk about hope, talk about life, it is such a powerful way it prevents the job. About mental health, about liberation, and about people getting together and us having some sense of joy in this life that we live. Before I go any further, I would like to read a poem entitled "Be Real Food." The pool players, 7 at the Golden Show. Be real food. We left school. We lurk late. We strike straight. We sing sin. We din gin. We jazz June. We die soon. By Gwendolyn Brooks. This poem, very short, powerful, impact. It speaks to many of the stigma that we have put on the African American, and particularly the African American male. You know, if you think about 1619, we have to understand this reality, that it's impossible, it's very much impossible to enslave, to oppress a group of people without dehumanizing their very existence. And in that, we were stigmatized from the very beginning. So there was slavery, then there was the Reconstruction period, and we thought, the freedom from slavery, and we thought that would be enough, but still the stigmas remained. Then there was Reconstruction. We thought if we went out and voted, we got white people elected, then there would be a change. No, that wasn't enough. Then Dr. W. Du Bois came along and said we needed to be more educated, but no, that wasn't enough. In 1918, around 1919, there was this period in America. There was a pandemic, and things had gotten very crazy all over America. In many of our major cities, Black people had migrated to the North for jobs. They were looking for opportunity, but there was a lot of fights because there was fear that Black people, African Americans, other individuals would come and take jobs away. And in this fear, and in these challenges, there was a new movement called the Harlem Renaissance. In that movement, the mighty, the words, it became a new movement to change the narrative around Black folks. They called it the New Negro, the Harlem Renaissance. President Brooks wasn't a part of that initiative, but in the consciousness of her development as a writer, she took from that period of time in 1960 wrote this poem. It wasn't to glamorize these stereotypes. It wasn't to praise these stigmatizing images of Black men, but it was to bring to awareness to all of us of these type of stigmas that we had embraced on some level, and it was causing us to have so many problems. So, we're talking today about mental health. We're talking today about some form of freedom. But I guess we should start off with talking about what mental wellness, what it is. Mental health, as defined by the Surgeon General report, refers to the performance of mental functioning, resulting in productive activities, fulfilling relationships with other people, and the ability to adapt, to change, cope with adversity. You know what? We already up against it, right? Trying to maintain a clear head in this crazy space. I'll tell you, living in the 21st century is really hard to do that. Why? Because there's always something going on, right? You got your kids, you got your job, you got your bills, you got your car, and at any point in time, things can go wrong. So man, if your mental health is all together, then you are doing a great job. But most of us, at some point, will have some challenges with mental illness, which can be defined as mental disorders or health conditions that are characterized by alterations in thinking, mood, or behavior, or some combination associated with stress and are impaired functioning. Yes, at some point in time, we all experience this. But going back to that idea of stigma, you see, stigma works in two ways. On one hand, it keeps us in a place of oppression. So we'll be considered as pagans, we'll be considered as thugs, we'll be considered as terrorists, we'll be considered as heathens, not having any value in life. And we'll also be considered as strong, considered athletic, we'll be considered powerful. And in those ideas, we'll also feel like, hey, we never had any problems. Like, I got this. I'm cool. So the idea of being stigmatized, because we've been stigmatized so much, makes us afraid of addressing things that might be wrong. You know, it's a lot of us who are dead today because we were afraid to go get help. We were afraid to go get help. We was afraid to go get help when we had problems. Why? Because we were stigmatized by something in our environment. So stigma is a feeling of shame, disgrace, or dishonor for oneself or a family member, unemployment, underemployment, poor and needing public assistance, discrimination, prejudice, broken families, losing your home, not having a car, learning disorder, not having the numerous related, being sick, physically and or mentally. Oftentimes, people experience stigma. Mental health and stigma, man, it clashes so much. Because it can cause individuals not to seek help at all, not maintain medication compliance, lead to violations of one's civil rights, discrimination, and result in labeling, resulting in job loss, addiction, physical harm, fear, rejection. Mental illness is just that, an illness, just like any other illness. Oftentimes, when we think about this, we think about it in such a way that creates such a problem for us as men. We have this thing called hypermasculinity. It can be defined as exaggeration of stereotypical behaviors such as emphasis on physical strength, aggression, and sexuality. How does this impact our motivation for change? You know, oftentimes when I think about this, You see, I have a picture of Luke Cage in the background. Why? Because he was this guy who could stop bullets, right? He couldn't really be hurt, but on the inside, emotionally struggled, and he wasn't able to maintain healthy relationships with people around him. And in fact, he wasn't able to express himself, and it caused all kind of problems in his relationship. So although we want to be cool, although we want to be strong, we also have to be able to express our emotions and our feelings. Oftentimes, I like to think about it like this. There is a brick, there is a piece of rubber. What would you rather be? Like a brick, nice and hard, or like a piece of rubber that's flexible? I tell you, when I think about it might seem cool to be like hard like a brick. So when you really think about the properties of rubber, you might be better off being flexible to be able to change and adapt and not always put on the same hard face all the time. Sometimes we struggle with these things for a number of different reasons, expressing ourselves and talking about our issues. One, many of us are not taught to express our feelings or emotions. We tend to believe that there's something wrong with that. If they are sensitive, they are often ridiculed, shamed. So if we're sensitive, people will look at us a certain way. Black men are really praised for intellectual or emotional intelligence. So A, being smart. Think about it, brothers and sisters. How many men, black men, do we celebrate for being smart? How many do we celebrate for being emotionally intelligent? I must crack my food to ask for help. If I ask for help, I'm not cool. There's a problem with that. I don't trust medical providers. Remember the Tuskegee experiment, 1932? I always think about that and I ask, have you ever went to the doctor before and they really helped you? I remember being about 14 years old, going to the doctor for pneumonia and being sick for like 4 days. It was really bad. Waiting for the doctor to help me in that situation, I may not be alive today, but I know that person. Talking to someone is not going to change my financial problem. Yes, we believe that. But talking to someone, cathartic expression, may allow you to get out what you feel, think about things. It's someone to help you process your situations. Sometimes when we're close to situations, we can't see the forest or the trees. And so when somebody else begins to work with us to process our feelings and emotions, we can come up with solutions that we did not see before. Racism and prejudice keep mental health professionals understanding challenges. You know, that is always a possibility, but you never know until you try. Many mental health professionals are trained. Push away by stress, and we have to figure out how to manage it in a way that we can cope properly. You see, stress can be positive, it can be tolerable, or it can be toxic. Somehow, if we have some stress, it can motivate us to do a good job, school, or work. It can motivate us to work on a project in our family. So it's important for us to have some level of stress. Toxic stress is that kind of stress that never goes away, and we're constantly feeling in this place where we don't ever feel at ease. And this can disturb disrupt our sense of well-being. It can cause psychological reactions, and stress causes behavior reactions. When we think of stress, we have to think about this chemical called cortisol, stress hormone. Gets into our body and it's released. And every time it's released into our body, it actually can damage our arteries. Many of us may face heart disease and other cardiovascular challenges as a result of experiencing stress too much. And this is what we think of when we talk about constant stress. We don't want to be in a place where constantly in an environment of stress. This is the thing here. So many of us have lived a life of stress all the time that it's hard to understand a world where we are not stressed because we live it every day. A lot of us, when I talk as a therapist to many people, when I say, hey, take out a few minutes to celebrate yourself or recognize what you've done, or just to take a walk, or forget about all your problems or the things that's going on in your life, it's very hard to do that. Largely because of oppression, the life that we live now in the 21st century. Human beings, we are known to be dichotomous thinkers or binary thinkers, or we have hypervigilance, which that means we are constantly focusing on our concern, the possibility of some danger, some issue that can happen to us. And so we're constantly looking out for the next thing to happen. And we have to learn how to shut that down sometimes so we can actually live in the moment. The 5 steps for Black men. Of course, money, finances, right? Boom. Gotta have it. Race and racism, jobs and career, relationships, family, health, and illness. These are things that we need to deal with. Adult Blacks are 20% more likely to experience serious mental health problems compared to the general population. Only 6.6 of Black men use mental health services in the last year, according to this report. It's important that we use mental health services to help us work through our problems and our issues in life. How has the pandemic and COVID-19? Well, when they catch a cold, we get pneumonia. Disproportionate COVID infection, 1 in 5, significant portion of all essential workers, loss of jobs, financial resources, social injustice, employee brutality, education inequalities, disparities, healthcare service. The list goes on and on and on. Man, where we are today, I hear it every day. Just listening, just hearing about the young man in Louisiana and what happened. And we think about Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. The list goes on and on and on. We hear about the disparities in school, and we hear about the disparities in healthcare. Makes us want to wonder how we keep from going under, right? But we have to keep moving. We have to keep driving through these crazy times because it can get better. James Baldwin, which is one of the most powerful literary voices of all time. He might have been just next to Martin Luther King as a voice, a symbol of the civil rights movement. He expressed these words: to be a Negro in this country, to be relatively conscious, is to be enraged almost all the time. So he implies here, he says that, look, we have the right to have some mental challenges, some mental health concerns, some things that we need to process, some things that we need to work with. We have a right to feel that way. Depression, let's talk about depression. Oftentimes it means something bad has happened to me. Down or irritable mood, decreased or loss in appetite, less interest in enjoyable activities, lack of energy, poor concentration or indecisiveness, social withdrawal, homelessness, low self-esteem, grief, suicidal thoughts. With depression, oftentimes amongst African American males, it might present itself as a irritable mood. So we may be more likely to show anger and of course frustration. Also, I want to know that we oftentimes look at Black men and we look at the amount of shootings that happen in the African American community. Well, I learned a long time ago when I was learning psychodynamic theory. They talked about depression as being anger turned inside, internal. Where anger showed on the outside, depression externalized. Depression is anger internalized. So oftentimes what we might do when we are depressed, we're going to be more likely to engage in violent, aggressive behaviors. And oftentimes we'll say as men, we're not emotional like women are. We're not emotional. Women are emotional, right? So let's cut the bull. Because it just manifests itself in different ways. Because we're more likely to engage in violence. And if we kill ourselves, or try to kill ourselves, we're more likely to do it in horrific ways. Anxiety, the fear that something bad will happen, unrealistic worry that won't go away, motor tension, restless, music, muscle tension, shaking, automatic hyperactivity, occultation, shortness of breath, nausea, hypervigilance, feeling on edge, poor concentration, trouble sleeping, irritable mood. I believe that people experience anxiety far more than depression. But the depression is the result of ongoing anxiety. When we can't get our mind to stop running, when we can't find a place where we can kind of be in a calm place, then we become depressed. But anxiety impacts far more Americans, far more Black, far more white people than anything. Living in a world of hypervigilance, we're always concerned about the next bad thing that will occur. And as a result of that, we can never really rest. Think about this. Depression and anxiety probably occurs more in our more developed countries, in the countries that are more undeveloped. Some of the reasons why is we spend so much time getting information. And this information that we get oftentimes leads us to concern, issues, fears, and things we need to do. We never really feel content. And as a result, our mind is always running. And at some point, we become depressed because our body is trying to slow us down. Now, moving on. How do we cope with stress and the reality of the pandemic? Things are changing now, right? Really? Not sure yet? So this is what I want you to do to try to help yourself through these difficult times. Number one, try to keep a positive attitude as much as possible. At least keep it realistic. Try not to be extremely optimistic. That's not really healthy. But don't go extremely negative, because that's not healthy either. Oftentimes, as human beings, we want to get binary. This way, that way. But many times, it's such a shame to bring a life experience. We have to embrace that as being okay. Because everything we don't have control over. Except there are events that you cannot control. Things you don't know. If it's raining outside, wear have an umbrella. Maybe in time past, you might wear a raincoat. Learn and practice relaxation, try meditation, yoga, stress management, exercise regularly. I find for me that going outside, taking a walk, or even taking a nice run, listening to soca music is it is wondrous for me. My feeling, it's nothing like feeling the breeze, going by my head, hearing the music in my ears, and just finding that nice little place to kind of run, and that rhythm to run in that allows me to feel good as I work out. Eat healthy. Yes, it's so important that we eat healthy. Because we talk about anxiety, talk about depression, and other social and emotional experiences that we have. What we eat plays a big role in how we feel. Learn to manage your time more effectively. Give yourself room. Don't do everything when you have to keep up to the moment or to the minute. Set limits. Learn to say no. I can't say that enough. So many of us struggle because we don't want to say no. But it's okay to be a little bit narcissistic. It's just not okay to be extremely narcissistic. The word really refers to self-love, by the way. So, if you love yourself enough to say no, and set boundaries with other people, you will feel a lot better. I know we want to be like, right? It's chaotic. So many people go on social media every day and they try to find ways or express themselves in a way to hope they get life. So maybe sometimes when we can't say no, it's really about the fact that we want to be liked. Make time for art, interest, relaxation. Get enough sleep. Don't rely on alcohol and drugs or other compulsive behavior, gambling, and other things that help you feel better. I want you to know and understand that drug and alcohol might be who to do to some degree. But I always ask myself, why is it everywhere in my community? I can get it everywhere. It's like, how is it so accessible? You know, and the crazy thing is, alcohol is present. And so is marijuana. It changed the way our brain actually operates. So when you don't smoke, find it difficult and stressful. So you have to smoke some more. Or you have to drink some more. Listen, we live in a culture of overindulgence in drugs, not just alcohol, marijuana. No, every time we feel something, we want to get a drug to help us feel better. But you know what? I call that the aspirin effect because it doesn't really change our reality at all. It just changes how we feel in the moment. And sometimes that can be very short-sighted. Seek out social support. Spend enough time with those you enjoy. Yeah. If you haven't learned anything in the last, we haven't learned anything in the last year and a half. It's nothing like having a good support system. And so seek out people that you enjoy spending time. Avoid toxic people. Seek out people that you enjoy spending time with. Good for your physical, mental, and spiritual health. And it's okay if you need support to speak to a therapist or a psychologist, or even talk to your medical doctor. They have ways to help you or get you to a therapist. And by the way, many times when I'm talking to men, I learned that they don't go to doctors for years. No, that is bad. Time out. I get tired of going to funerals and people saying, well, the Lord's will. But there's so many things that's not the Lord's will that is preventable by us making decisions. Just go to the doctor and get checked out sometimes. It doesn't make you weak. It just makes you aware of what's going on with your body. Because this is one of the things I try to teach you. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because you deny it doesn't mean it's not progressing. So you need to deal with your physical health as well as your mental health in order to have an opportunity to have a life that you want to have. I know there's prejudice, I know there's racism and discrimination in the world, but some of these things we do have some control of. And we can do something about it, bro. Sis, we can do something about it to make our life different. Hip hop, mental health. I have this love-hate relationship with hip hop, and because it's such an awesome way of expression. Sometimes being a mental counselor and helping people work with problems, the image that we oftentimes see is not always most constructive. But one thing I love about it is it is a powerful way to express feelings, emotions about our realities. And thinking about it, I was thinking about mental health, right? And I thought about ran after class in period 5. We had to go back to the beginning. We had to go back where it started, right? It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how she's going under. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. That's not a brother having some anxiety. That's not somebody experiencing frustrations, going through something. And what is? Now we move up. 2017, Big Sean, Deep Reverence. In high school, I learned chemistry and biology, but not how to cope with my anxiety or how I could feel like I'm by myself when in college with depression on all sides of me. A lot of people, like artists, are expressing these type of attitudes today. And I think it's a really positive thing. And letting us know that they have these feelings, that they have these emotions. Tells us that we should also deal with our feelings, deal with our emotions, so that we can get help with what's going on with us. When should you seek help? Each mental health condition has its own signs and symptoms. In general, however, professional help might be needed if you experience marked changes in personality, eating, or sleeping habits. Listen, one of the things I often feel mental health, it's like physical health. If you've been functioning a certain way and things have been good for you, and you all of a sudden find yourself in a place where things are not so good, then we can look into ourselves and say, well, maybe there's something going on. So if it's a physical problem, then we might go to our doctor. But if it's a mental health problem, we're feeling down, we're feeling agitated, we find ourselves getting more angry or irritated, and it's not our norm, we're aware of that, then maybe we can say, I should go and talk to someone about this, because this is not my norm. In fact, most people who come to seek counseling oftentimes are aware there's something going on with them. As a therapist, sometimes my greatest fear is we will become functional in our mental health environment. And then we'll operate in that and think that everything's okay. And so we're limiting ourselves because we're not getting help. It's like when somebody gets their leg broke and it wasn't set right, they always walk with a limp because they never addressed it. They never addressed it. So when I've been traumatized, or I felt anxiety, or I felt depression, I never got any help. I never got any support for those things. And so now I have this emotional limp. I have this broken heart. I have this distorted thinking that keeps me from being able to see life in a different way. Feeling disconnected, we grow up from normal activities, unusual or massive thinking, excessive anxiety, prolonged sadness, depression, or apathy, thoughts or statements about suicide, harming others, substance issues, extreme mood swings, excessive anger, hostility, or violent behavior. Many people who have mental health disorders consider their signs and symptoms as a normal part of life or avoid treatment out of shame or fear. If you are concerned about your mental health, don't hesitate to seek advice. With mental health, there's always, just like going to a doctor, it should always be a plan for recovery. Recovery plan. Identify goals to achieve for wellness. So I come in, I do an assessment. I learned that you have, we discuss it, we identify that you have some form of trauma, you have some form of depression or anxiety or some other mental health issue. We can develop a goal for wellness. You can come up with steps, specific things to help you move forward in trying to improve your circumstance situation. So what will be done to reach those goals? Oftentimes, I will tell people start with something simple. Like if I'm feeling like I have low self-concept, I want you to work on each day on identifying things that are positive about yourself, the things that you can feel good about, and trying to celebrate those things day-to-day basis. Or maybe going outside, being active, and doing that at a certain interval every week, or identifying people that you think might be toxic or difficult for you, and learning how to think differently, and interpret those situations differently, or either leaving them alone. So it can include your short and long-term goals, tracking changes in your mental health as we go along. How things can be different. Learn your stress triggers and how to manage them.